What's up? What's up, everybody? Um, part three. No, three, not six. Three. Part three. The Wounds book launch. We are doing these virtual live streams for a couple of different reasons. And as you hop in here, I'm going to try and catch myself a couple of different times to welcome this. But if you are out there in social media land on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, whether it's in our private community or you're in general Facebook land and you are watching this, pop in, drop a comment in the chat, say what's up. I don't know, say anything that you want. I just would love to know that you're here. I'm seeing people pop in right now. If you are coming in right now, drop a comment into the comment section. Just say what's up. Let me say hi to you. I'm super appreciative of anybody that is here for this third session, or somebody, maybe you've been here for all three. That'd be pretty amazing. We did one of these at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. We did another one at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And now we are here for our final third part of this Wounds book launch party. Thank you, Larry. I am looking forward to you reading the book too. Hopefully you've grabbed a copy of that. As we have been working through this day, I've been trying to update people. By the way, if you are coming in through Facebook, there's a possibility that it's popping up as Facebook user and not your name in the chat. So just drop your name in there. I saw somebody said the man. Maybe that's you. Maybe you called me that. That's cool. Somebody else said missed the second one. I don't know who that is. So if you're coming in from Facebook, just pop your name in there. That kind of feels weird, but just a little note there to know that that's coming from you. Anyway, we are, I think, about halfway to our goal. Aaron Isaac, you have been a joy. You are such a positive contribution. You are just so kind and so gracious. I love seeing you pop in. I know that you choose joy, and I'm excited that you fill me with joy. David Ash, thank you so much for ordering a copy. Chuck, what's up, dude? Thank you. Tess, you and Nick have been incredible supporters. I cannot thank you guys enough. I wish I could give you a hug and you were down here in Southern California, not up in Utah, but we'll have to save that for another day. We're here talking about this, Wounds. Man, I can't believe that this day is like over halfway done. It's just insane how quickly the day has gone by. But I wanted just to give a quick recap. So in my first part to this live launch party that we're doing virtually, I talked about how I got here, like just the inspiration to write and some of that process for writing Wounds. I just saw an emoji come into the chat. That was probably my mom, but she didn't hear me say to put her name there too, but she's the emoji queen. Anyway, love it when your family can support you. Super appreciative of that. So that was the first session, was on just kind of my process to get here. The second part that we did to this, I just took an opportunity to thank the people that helped contribute to the writing process. I talked about my good friend, John Welch's. He was actually just in the office and I kicked him out so I could go live. But he has been an incredible contribution. I talked about Hussein and Chaz, who helped set me off on this process. I talked about the guys that helped contribute to excerpts for the book, Alan and John and Dean, just so many incredible people that have contributed to this point. One funny thing I'll say is I gave a shout out to Christian, who was the guy that helped really connect all the dots with getting this uploaded and processed. This poor guy is working right now because we found out that something broke on Amazon and it's showing that the hardback version is no longer available. And so we're trying to figure that out. Christian's trying to figure that out. He's hustling like crazy. So if you are listening to this and you want a hardback copy, please be patient. I'd love for you to buy a paperback copy so we can still keep this sale train going today. If you got in and got a hardback copy early, you are lucky and one of the fortunate few. Anyway, so what are we doing today? What are we doing on this part three of the live launch party? So this was an opportunity. And by the way, I have a giveaway that I'm going to give at the end. And this is one you're not going to want to miss but you're going to have to be here till the end. I think we're going to go about 30 minutes on this live session. So probably about 1:30 Pacific time is when we will tighten up or finish up. So I'm going to give away something pretty crazy at the end. At least I think it is. It's going to be super valuable. It's going to be worth about $4,000 to $5,000. And so you're probably going to want to stick around if you want to engage in something that's going to be worth its weight in maybe more than gold. But for now, what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to walk through the wound analysis framework with you. So in my book, so for many people that opted in early, so there was a couple hundred of you, which I'm super grateful for, that jumped in early to say, hey, I want to be a part of this community supporting you, rallying on sale day, launch day, which is today. And so you've been getting emails. And so one of the gifts that I gave, I believe that it was a gift, hopefully it was to you, was I gave you the opportunity to read the introduction and the first chapter weeks ago. And so for all of you, you're familiar with this wound analysis framework. But I wanted to unpack this a little bit more because and for those of you that haven't, hopefully you got your copy, especially if you got a Kindle version, you're reading it right now. As a matter of fact, I had one of my clients, shout out to Lauren Rilling. She's an incredible fractional CFO up in the Colorado area. I've been working with her for the better part of almost a year now, and she's been a pleasure to work with. She's achieved incredible success. And Lauren and I have worked through so many different facets of her business and some of her own life and just so many things. Anyway, so she picked up a copy of my book. And like hours later, she sends me a text and she's like, I read it. And your life is crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should have wrote a longer book. But anyway, that's besides the point. Some of you, if you have the Kindle version, you're reading it now. If not, you're going to get this sooner than later. As soon as you get your copy, open it up. Because I introduced this idea of the wound analysis framework right in the introduction, so right up front. So I want to explain this a little bit, and then I'm going to talk you through some practical applications, because whether you are a business owner, you are a sales professional, you're a mom or a dad, you are a spouse, you are a friend, you are an administrative employee sitting in the back corner of somebody's office somewhere, there is a 99.9% chance, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 99.9% chance that there is some challenge that you're facing in your life or some goal that you desire to achieve that is being held back by something that happened to you in the past. I talked about this a little bit in the earlier sessions. See, when people see this idea or see wounds, right? It's like, oh, wounds, you're broken, you're messed up, you don't work right. Now, some of us feel like that. Like we're just in the place where we feel like I'm jacked up. I'm just all beat up. I think of some of my clients right now. I think of some of my friends right now that are just in horrific situations. One client specifically, he uprooted his whole life and committed to investing in a new organization to lead that organization. And come to find out, for lack of a better term, he was kind of sold a bill of goods, and he's now having to uproot his life all over again. And so in the moment, as much as he trusts God and he believes that there was purpose to why he was there, and he sees brighter future ahead, it's still hard and he's struggling right now. I think of another client of mine that is having incredible success professionally and is dealing with one of the most difficult personal seasons of life ever. I think about friends that are really, really struggling. And so definitely there are many of us who are wounded right now, who just feel like we cannot catch a break. For those of you that feel like that, I empathize with you, and this is going to be practical for you for sure. But others of you, you're just living normal life. You're going through your days, they're pretty good overall. You have some goals. Some of them you're achieving, some of them that you're not. Um, and so for you, when you hit a plateau or when you hit a wall or when you struggle in some way in terms of just achieving kind of the next thing, you try to create a new process or a new strategy or develop a new habit to overcome it or to achieve it. And in and of itself, none of those things are bad. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of wisdom. But I still believe that 99.9% of the time, one of the contributing factors to you not getting to where you want to go is actually because of words. Something from your past is hindering your present and will therefore stunt your future. And again, for a lot of us, especially you men, us men, we often don't want to admit that. We don't want to admit defeat or weakness. We've been working so hard to build ourselves up to the place that we are that we don't want to let other people in. We don't want people to see a crack in our armor. But I want to tell you right now, and I'm just going to be straightforward. If you want to achieve all that you've been created to achieve, you have to become all that you've been created to be. If you want to achieve all that you've been created to be, or to achieve, you have to be all that you've been created to be. Look, this side of heaven, none of us is perfect. This side of us, the heaven, none of us has it all together. This side of heaven, we're going to deal with struggle and sin and hurt and heartache. But that doesn't mean that we don't strive to heal, to grow, and to learn. And so as I was writing, I think that it was early on in my writing process with the original publisher, and they said to me, "So, like, what's going to be the takeaway for people as you're writing this? Because it can't just be a story. I mean, it's hard to get people to care about some idiot from the middle of nowhere, California. But if it's nothing but a story and there's no application, it's going to be really hard for people to care. Except for those of you that are listening right now because you just know me and you feel obligated to be here." So they said, you got to give them something. And so I started thinking about how I went about going back into my past, understanding what happened, learning and growing. And voila, this wound analysis framework came to be. So I want to talk about that first, and then I'm going to talk about real life application in the moment. So I went back and I started to realize that um, I had moved past, in good ways, I had moved past a lot of my past hurt, things that I had done, things that have been done to me. Like probably, yeah, I'll say probably the biggest arc of the story in my story is my relationship with my dad. And completely healed from that. I love my dad more than anything. We were texting right before this, and he's on a road trip with my stepmom right now. They're going across the country, and he's trying to figure out how he can support me and buy enough books to help me get across the finish line. And I was playing golf the other day, and I'm texting him, and I'm like, man, the only thing that I'm missing right now is playing with him. And you'll read, and I've shared this publicly, that there was a long period of my life where I didn't talk to my dad at all, almost 10 years as an adult. But I'd healed from all that and I'd grown from all that. And yet, when I started to develop this framework, I realized that I actually hadn't completely healed. Because though I had forgiven my dad had forgiven me, though we had an amazing relationship, there were still things that were open. And there were still issues that were somewhat unresolved, personality challenges that I had that were the result of way back then. And so I had to go back to that event and just say it hurt. That hurt. My parents' divorce hurt. All those years, the on again, off again relationship with my dad hurt. Some of that I did, some of that my dad did. So, first, in the framework, it's just admitting that we were wounded. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to admit the fact that somebody got to you, that something got to you, that something broke you? You know, we live in a society today that always talks about failure and being okay with failure. And yet, it's just bullshit. I just don't know any other way to say it. And the reason I say that is because as much as this idea of being okay with failure is celebrated, few people are actually willing to admit that they failed, that they fell short. We'll do it in protective tight circles, maybe, but not open and in public. So we have to admit that we were hurt, that somebody hurt us or we hurt ourselves. Or maybe we hurt somebody else, and as a result of that, that hurt us too. Secondly, it's not just about admitting the fact that there was this hurt, but it's beginning to understand. And so the longer this was in your past, the longer this is going to take. It's understanding how that impacted you. And all the ways it impacted you. How did it affect you as a person? How did it change the way you saw yourself, the way you saw other people, the way you acted, the way you spoke? Again, as it relates to my relationship with my dad, though I didn't even completely understand it because I was 6 when it happened, though I didn't completely understand it, I began to realize that I would go on to live my life for the next 22 years, from 6 until 28 when I came to faith in Jesus and realized that my worth was not in anything that I had done, but in everything that Christ had done for me. But up until that moment, for 22 years, I spent nearly every day of my life trying to prove to everybody else something. And that something more often than not was I was worthy, I was worth it, I was as good, if not better, than anybody I was around. And you can now begin to imagine all of the trouble that got me into. Trying to fit in, trying to prove myself. It was terrible. And then think about this. It's not just then what that damage that did to me, but how I treated people, how I belittled people to lift myself up. The way it made me think about other people, the way it made me think about myself. I thought of myself so high, and oftentimes others so low. Let me give you a practical example of the way that this really destroyed me for a long time. I was fortunate enough to get into sales and be pretty good by the time I was about 22, 23. I sales records, made some pretty good money. I had a CEO come to me one time and basically said to me that he recommended I get a mentor, and I laughed in his face. Now, not only was that a prideful, idiotic kid disrespecting the CEO of his own company, but do you realize how bad that hurt me? I didn't hire my first coach until I was 39. If I would have had a coach helping to develop me professionally and personally from 25 when that happened, 26, until 39, I would have been a weapon out in that sales field. I was good. I would have been insane. I was so prideful that I knew better than everybody else, that I would never have taken outside financial advice from other people because I would have never admitted that I didn't know. And yet, because of that, other circumstances were at play. I ended up in financial ruin in 2013, short sold our house and lost just about everything we owned, all because I never truly dealt with my parents' divorce. So I have to understand all of the ways that impacted me. Okay. So own it, name it, understand how it's impacted you or me, you, in the past, but then also carrying all the way up until we actually deal with it. And then finally, then it's like, okay, so this happened, it hurt me, or I hurt somebody else, which in fact hurts me too. It's impacted me negatively all these years. Now what? Well, I'm just going to tell you something right now. Nothing happens by accident. I personally believe that God intentionally designs our life from start to finish. And in the midst of all of those poor decisions and negative situations, while God is not the orchestrator of evil, he uses that evil for good to shape, to refine, to guide, to lead, to grow. And so we can look at those opportunities and say, okay, they happen to me. They suck. I don't like them at all. I wish I didn't do them. I wish they weren't done to me. I want to take them back. I want to erase them from my memory. But if this is part of God's plan, then it's time I use it for good. Let me grow from it. Let me learn from it. Let me become better as a result of it. And ultimately, let me unlock the greatness that is inside of me right now. An athlete with an injury will never perform at his or her top level. They can still dominate, they can still win, but they can't perform at their peak if they have some mental or physical ailment. Well, the same goes for us. We will never achieve peak performance if we are not fully healed. And so, this framework, this isn't the end all be all. I mean, we've created a coaching program, self directed coaching course, and then a coaching community with live coaching calls from me that will help people to take steps beyond this because this is only one ancillary part of the process. But this is one of the biggest parts is this wound analysis framework. So I explain that to you because I want you to understand that while this is my story, embedded in that are opportunities for you to relate and for hopefully for you to guide yourself through this process or to be inspired to help somebody else guide you through it. But again, back to what I said earlier, most of us don't attribute what's going on now that we don't love to our past. And so I just want to share with you how this comes up practically in a couple of different ways. Okay. So one of the keys is if you struggle with self-limiting beliefs. Now, one of the most raw and real ways that I can prove to you that you don't see yourself the way that you should is by giving you this analogy of sorts. And if you've heard me speak live, you've probably heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. I want you to recall what you saw when you got out of the shower naked this morning and looked in the mirror. Now, that can be a very crude thing for me to say. I get that. But I need you to realize that you cannot see yourself for who you are. You see things you don't like. And I'm not saying any of us are perfect. There are many things aesthetically that I would like to change about myself. But we automatically, most of us, get to this place of condemnation. And so we deal with those self-limiting beliefs every single day that prevent us from taking risks, that prevent us from putting ourselves out there, that prevent us from pushing ourselves to do the things that we need to do to achieve the things that we desire. One of the hottest topics for the last few years for sure has been this resurrection of developing good habits. James Clear, Atomic Habits, really was the catalyst for that. But I attribute it back to my dude, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's the better version. But I have nothing against James Clear's book. I think it's phenomenal. But if you have a poor view of yourself, no habit in the world is going to help you get to where you want to go. If you constantly struggle with doubt, question your decision-making process. When you are confronted with a negative situation or you receive negative feedback, if you automatically think to yourself, oh my gosh, I blew it again. Oh my gosh, what have I done wrong this time? It's not that we shouldn't self-reflect, but if our first reaction or response is to tear ourselves down or just accept the fact that we blew it, we're broken. The good news is we don't have to stay that way. This goes for our relationships. I think about all the ways that I struggled in my past to communicate clearly with my wife. It's literally by God's grace alone that we're still married after 22 years. Her goodness for sure, but God's grace. She's an amazing woman. But I think about all the ways that I struggled to communicate effectively with her. My feelings, engaging hers, understanding what she really needed. Those weren't present day problems. That was past brokenness that was hindering me from being able to do what needed to be done in the moment. Parents, both as a parent and leading our kids, there are so many ways in which our past is hindering us from being able to parent our kids well. Fears of the mistakes we made, and yes, there's wisdom in not wanting our kids to make the same mistakes that we did. But fears about things that we did growing up, questions around, it's fascinating to me. One of the most practical ways that I actually see this happen is um, how much does it piss you off when your kids question your authority? Now, there's a level of disrespect there that we should not tolerate as parents, ever. No question about it. But I think for many of us, we're more pissed off that our position is being threatened because it was threatened once before or many times before in our past. And we finally hold a position that nobody can threaten anymore. And yet it happens. And so we lashed out at our kids. Instead of correcting them, guiding them, and leading them to make the right decisions, we just smoke them. In business, this happens all the time. One of the reasons that people want promotions and titles is so nobody can tell them what to do. One of the reasons why people start their own business is so nobody can tell them what to do. Give me a freaking break. You will spend the rest of your life listening to people tell you what to do. You can't protect yourself from those things. What you can do is learn how to deal with it more professionally and respectfully and graciously. You don't need to escape the situation all the time to deal properly with the situation. But if you don't have the tools because you've been broken before, you've been hurt before in that same way, you are going to be ill-equipped to deal with it in the moment. We developed this series of like 12 guides, one of which, the first one that we released publicly, was called A Guide to Identifying and Challenging Negative Thoughts. And if you want that, by the way, join our private Facebook community. It's called Unlocking Greatness. And if you go to woundsbook.com, you can join the community and you can gain access to that guide. But that guide was a simple way to help people deal with the everyday negative thoughts that come into our head. Now, the guide is a simple field manual to help them with that in the moment, to deal with the negative thoughts or to train ourselves to not fall into those things. But I'm the first to admit that the guide's not enough. Because if the reason you have those negative thoughts is because of something that happened to you in the past, you are going to continue to have them regardless of how good you are at dealing with them when you deal with them. Look at I till I'm blue in the face can tell you this is true. But the only way you're ever going to change is if you believe it to be true too. I can't convince you of that. I can just hopefully I can just inspire you to consider if you are deeply broken, if you are really struggling right now. First of all, I want to tell you I'm sorry. I truly, truly mean that. It is horrible to feel like life keeps piling on, like you can't get ahead, like everybody is against you. And I want to tell you that is a lie from the pit of hell. But as bad as life is, there are people out there that truly care. And there are people out there that can really help. I may or may not be that person, but I want to tell you that somebody will be. But whether that you're on that side of it or you're on the side of it where you're just banging your head against the wall because you can't figure out how to get to the next level, I just want you to consider what I have said, because this may be the key to everything you've ever dreamed of. I am not your answer. Ultimately, Jesus is. And that doesn't promise prosperity. As a matter of fact, coming to faith created its own share of problems for me, but it also gave me better tools to deal with them. And a hope that regardless of whether I dealt with them or not, that there was better things yet to come. But while you live on this earth every single day for the rest of your life, my encouragement to you is to figure out what's inside of you, to bring that to the surface, to heal it, to grow it, to nurture it, and ultimately to become the very best men and women that God has created you to be. We all have insane amounts of potential inside of us, but we have to believe it and we have to get after it. And I hope my book, my story, all of this is just a small fraction of contributing to what's yet to come for you. So please share that. Go grab a copy of the book if you haven't yet. I hope you love it. If you don't, I'm sorry. I think it's pretty good, and I don't think that just because it's my story. I actually was really proud of the work that came from it. Um, I appreciate your support for those of you that have been on one, two, or three of these. If you're still here right now, tap in and just say that that you've endured the last 35 minutes of this live session. This one was a bit more heavy than the other two, but it's because I really wanted to equip you with something to go with. I didn't just want this to be about fluffing and me talking about all the things that I want you to do for me today. That said, now I want to offer something to you. So here is what I'm going to offer. What I'm going to offer to somebody, to one person, is this. So we're going to do a drawing around this. I think this is going to be the best way to do it. So if you have been, if you've participated in any one of the live sessions, there's been a few. We gave away some autographed books in the first session. We gave away a bundle in the second session. And for this session, what I'm going to offer to one person is a unlimited access to our self-directed coaching program as soon as that comes live, which will be probably in the next 30 days tops. You'll be able to access all modules, all resources, all tools, all available to you. And then I'm going to offer you 1 year's access to our coaching community. That will start at the beginning of 2024, most likely. And those will be live weekly group coaching calls. And I want to gift that to somebody. In addition to that, in the short term, we will also send you an autograph copy, signed copy. Kind of sounds weird me saying autograph, a signed copy of Wounds. So the way we're going to do it is, all you have to do is email me after this, ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com. This giveaway is going to be going throughout the remainder of the day today. And so as long as you send an email in before, we'll call it 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you got about 3.5 more hours to do that. Email me and just say, I want it all. That's all I want you to say. I want it all. Say I want it all. Send that email to ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com. And we are going to do a drawing in the next couple of days. And we will award one winner of a signed copy of Wounds. We'll get that out to you as soon as possible. Once we choose a winner, we'll get an address. We'll send that to you. We're also going to send you one of these t-shirts, Greatness Unlocked. So we'll get your t-shirt size. We'll send you a wristband. We got a couple of other cool things that we're trying to do. We've developed a journal that you can download and have access to. So we'll give that to you. You'll have access to all 12. Plus, we're developing some more of those field guides around building resilience, building confidence, goal setting, managing emotions. There's so many things that we've created there. And then the course, as soon as it comes online, you'll be able to go through that at your own pace. And then finally, access for the whole of 2024 to the Unlocking Greatness coaching community. So that is my, hopefully, that is my gift to you. That's my contribution to you for being here. Thank you guys so much. We are not done yet, though. We have a live event coming up this afternoon. It's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you are local to Southern California, you can email me, same email address, and I'll shoot you access to RSVP quickly. That will give you the address and all that good stuff. And if you, by some chance, have not heard me ask, or you just haven't bought a book yet, please do so. Please share that on social media. Please text one of your friends or email one of them that you know is certain to do you a solid and say, hey, I know this great dude, and I think he's written a pretty great book, and I think it would benefit you. Let's just keep that chain going. I told a few people earlier, I said in the last session, my goal is 250 books today. I actually have no idea where we're at because Amazon's not super clear on that. But my goal is 250 books. I think it'll take a couple of days to figure out whether we hit that goal or not. So share it, share it, share it. If I can do anything else for you, I've just given away my contact information. So come and find me. I hope you win. Thank you guys so much. I love you. I appreciate you. There is more to come from this. We're going to be going live on a more regular basis. But for now, this wraps up our 3 parts on the Wounds book launch party virtually. You guys are amazing. I love you. I love you. Thank you.